What's up guys, in this video I want to cover the topic of when to hire your first employee. This is a pivotal moment in your career as an agency owner, and you have to get the timing right, you have to be ready for it. And I made the mistakes in the beginning as well where I hired too early and it has cost me. So with this video I want to cover a couple of things that are important to ask yourself to determine if you're ready to hire. But first of all, what happens if you hire too early? What's the kind of cost to you? Well, first of all, you're gonna waste time recruiting because you don't really know what you're looking for if you don't have everything defined. When you're hiring too early, you're usually looking for like some broad thing. I need someone to do sales, whatever, right? Like some broad thing. I need someone to do client work. That's not a defined role, so you're gonna waste time there. Then you're gonna waste time training someone and wasting employees' time as well, just to then let them go and be like, oh, they sucked and they didn't do it right, only to realize a couple months down the line, it was your deficiency, your skill issue basically all along. So in this video, I just want to kind of go through like how to prevent this. So first of all, most hire too early, I found, because everyone thinks like a founder. So if you are someone that started their own company, and you probably are if you're watching this, right, because you want to hire someone, you think everyone thinks like you, which is you get a bit of an abstract problem and you can kind of just figure it out by doing. And this is just not the case. People that are employed in jobs, they usually have less of this way of thinking, and they're more so, they thrive more on like set instructions and set processes, and then they can, give it their own twist and give it their own input or suggest improvements. But they are not that good at, just abstract goals. Be like, okay, we need to create this thing, and then off you go. Usually it doesn't really work like that, and especially not the type of people you will hire at your agency. So not to dunk on anyone or something like that, but maybe of course the senior engineer at Facebook or some big tech company that gets paid like 500K a year. Obviously they can handle more abstract things, but the more typical employee, so to say, will not be able to do this. So you have to provide those instructions. You have to provide those kind of guidelines to operate in, and then obviously they can add a lot of value there and thrive within that role. And also, if this wasn't the case, just to think the other way around, if this wasn't the case, obviously everyone would start their own company, but they don't, because they need those guidelines. And then you as the entrepreneur, your job is to give those guidelines to bring that talent together. So that's the first thing you got to keep in mind. Not everyone thinks like a founder, and just kind of draw on that. That means that to be able to hire, you have to have those guidelines. This basically means you should map out your entire value delivery process to a client. We're talking about agencies here, to a client, before hiring someone. So this should probably be like a Miro board or like a flow chart, basically, where it's onboarding is mapped out. First we send over this document. Then we send over, the checklist. Then we discuss the onboarding form. Then we have a first call. Then we have a second call. In as much detail as possible. We send over this onboarding email, which is templatized. We then build the first campaign. We then review the KPIs after 2 weeks. And this is what good KPIs are. These are like what aren't good KPIs. And if the client requests this, then this is possible and this isn't possible. So, what I'm trying to say here is it has to have a lot of details. And you have to have this mapped out completely, and preferably as well, it ends in a circle, I would say. And I've talked about this before, but it's very important that you have kind of like an ongoing process to deliver for clients that is just returning maybe week after week, maybe it's month after month, maybe it's based on campaign after campaign. That's the way it is in my agency. So we launch a campaign, and then when the campaign is up, we review, and then we launch another one. And that's kind of the loop we keep on delivering on. And you have to have this process, because if you don't have this, how will someone know kind of what to do, right? Because if it's a linear thing, then there's an end, but they don't know when to start again. So you want to kind of have that as a circle, so to say, like a process, in your business. And then within each of these steps, so let's say one step is, to create a Facebook ad, or to create an email campaign, or to create like a targeting list, whatever you can think of, for each of these things, you want to decide if you need an SOP or a training or both. So an SOP, a lot of people have heard of this term. SOP is just step by step what to do, right? Like it's click here, then do this, then do that, then do that. Maybe you share your screen, and you just walk someone through like how to set up an account or where to click or how to fill out a report. And it's super simple, it's just basic instructions. But then what a lot of people forget about is what's called training. And this is where it's more so you want to teach someone how to think, okay? So you want to have them be more, so trainings will be more like diverse. It will be more so about, if you encounter this type of issue, you should think through it this way. And this is a bit vague, but just to give you an example, like an SOP might be, to set up an ad account, but then a training might be how to ideate a new Facebook campaign or a new angle, or how to ideate a new email script, or how to conduct a client call, right? Like on the one hand, you have the SOP, which might be like, okay, discuss the KPIs, ask them if they have any input, ask them if they have any plans for this, blah, 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 and just like a checklist. But then the training might be, if a client says something that's not right, make sure to challenge them and kind of give our perspective. If a client says something that we haven't heard before, make sure to call it out, whatever, right? Like a lot of those things which are not like as black and white, but it's more so like a training and a paradigm on how to think. So for each of the steps in your flowchart, you want to have one of the two or both before you hire someone, so they can actually have something to reference. So when you have that, that's when you're ready. Does it have to be perfect? Obviously not. Like you can still keep some things open. And when you start onboarding someone anyway, you will notice all of the blind spots you had before on things you still need to standardize, SOP and train away. But you want to have this like mapped out like roughly, because if you don't, it's going to be very hard for someone new to come into the organization and first of all conceptually understand what am I even here to do, and then second of all knowing how to actually do the thing and make sure you deliver. And then one really important thing to add on to that as well is for each of the steps to define success. What does a successful script look like? What does a successful ad campaign look like? You have to define it. And the most easy way to do that usually is through a KPI, to set some sort of number, performance number, where you then also give guidelines on what is a good number and what is a bad number, and then obviously also provide training and SOPs. If there's a good number, what to do to keep it up, and if there's a bad number, what to do to fix it. So those are also very important parts to hiring someone. So the more complex the process, the harder it is. So I would say, hiring, for example, an account manager or a sales rep was one of the more harder things for me. But hiring, the first, let's say, like VA role that would scrape a lead list or format a lead list, or maybe, in your business do some sort of admin. This was relatively easy because the process is just not that hard. So I would always recommend making those one of the first hires. And especially, if you're just starting out as an agency, which you probably are if you're doing your first hire, then those types of tasks are also the first ones that you want to delegate anyway, right? Like like collecting invoices, or in my case, like scraping lead lists, downloading some sort of thing and then uploading it in some other place, maybe doing some sort of reporting to clients where you have to pull the numbers from different places. Those are the tasks that are relatively simple, but also low ROI for your own time. So those are the first ones I would outsource anyway, and especially to get the hang of hiring as well. So does that mean that after you hire someone, then it's all done? No. So this is also something I had to learn the hard way. But obviously, if you hire someone, you can't expect them to just do the job and do it well from the get-go. Sometimes it happens. You have some people that are like natural talents, but obviously you have to start managing people as well. So you have to review their work with them, but also without them. You have to check up. You have to review the KPIs together. You have to do performance reviews, and you've got to keep good track of someone if they're doing a great job. And this again is why it's so important to have those clear guidelines on what the role is, what the process looks like, because you can't help someone with their performance if you don't even know what they should be doing, and they don't know what they should be doing. You can't hold those conversations if you don't have a benchmark to test them against, and if the benchmark has not been clear to them before. Because if you just start, hey, you're doing it wrong, they're like, but how would I know? Then obviously that's not going to be good company culture, but also it's not going to lead to success, right? So that's why you want to have it all clear, and then focus on the training them. And then it's all about moving your own work from doing the thing directly to having other people do it, and then it's obviously leveraged, right? So on that task you might now spend, instead of let's say 10 hours a week, you might spend 2 hours a week on it because you have someone else doing it, and then 2 hours of your time goes to managing someone. So you basically bought back 8 hours of your time, and you got 4x leverage, on your time. So that's the way you want to look at it. It's not about delegating and then never thinking about it again, but it's about applying leverage to your agency. So if you found this helpful and you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and then I'll see you all in the next one.